A quick arrest in a frightening hit-and-run incident. New talks in the Thunder Bay transit dispute. And the CLE bar controversy rages on. Good evening and thank you for joining us. An arrest has been made following a disturbing hit-and-run last night.
The crash involving a cyclist and a vehicle happened just after 6:30 in the evening. Police say the cyclist was targeted, but they can't say whether it was premeditated or a spur-of-the-moment incident. Cheryl Holmes has more.
Witnesses say a light-colored minivan swerved into the oncoming traffic lane of Algoma Street and drove on the wrong side of the road before turning into a parking lot and hitting a cyclist. The van was next seen fleeing the scene through a back lane, heading towards Bay Street. Thunder Bay police say a joint effort between the Criminal Investigations Branch and the Traffic Unit has led to an arrest.
The officers in the area worked very quickly to determine whether or not there was video surveillance available. The business owners did cooperate, and from the video we were able to determine that it is believed that this incident was intentional.
The van was quickly identified, and it is believed that the owner of the vehicle was known to the driver. The 37-year-old male driver has been charged with dangerous driving, causing bodily harm, and failed to remain. Police can't say if the incident was premeditated.
This is a very disturbing incident. Again, what led up to it is unknown at this time, but it was very serious, and this individual who was riding the cycle or the bike remains in the hospital in critical condition.
The injuries to the 38-year-old cyclist are considered very serious. The driver is in custody pending a court appearance. The vehicle has now been seized and the investigation is ongoing. Cheryl Holmes, TBT News.
A woman has been charged following the abduction of a 6-year-old girl. The missing child was reported to Thunder Bay police just after 8:30 last night. The girl reportedly left from the Lanark Crescent area with an adult female who is familiar to people in that area. Patrol officers spoke with a number of people who led them to the Bay Street and Algoma Street area. The girl was located there in the company of a 27-year-old woman. The suspect was taken into custody and has been charged with abduction of a person under 14 years. The 6-year-old girl has been returned unharmed to her guardian. Police say this is a very unusual incident. They're reminding parents to speak with their children about the importance of not leaving their guardian's custody without permission.
So they fully understand what they're to do in a similar type situation. A lot of times we just advise children not to go with strangers. Sometimes it's people who are known to them that may put them in the most danger, not on all occasions, but sometimes, and you want to make sure that your children know how to appropriately act, whether you use a code word or that they know they're not to go with anyone without their parents' direct permission.
Meanwhile, one man is in critical condition following a late-night incident in the Simpson and George Street area. The man was found outside the tunnel entrance to the Camview Overlook Park just before 1 o'clock in the morning. He has been transported to Thunder Bay Regional Hospital, where he remains in critical condition. While the investigation continues, police say they have not ruled out the possibility this may not be suspicious. Anyone who was in the Camview Park area around midnight is being asked to come forward if they have information on the incident.
One person has been taken to hospital following a two-vehicle collision on Highway 1117 in Shunya Township. It happened just before noon at Mackenzie Station Road. Police say a pickup truck stopped at the stop sign on Mackenzie Station Road. It then proceeded to cross the highway, coming into collision with an eastbound SUV, which rolled several times before coming to rest in a ditch. A passenger in the SUV was taken to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries, but the driver and a 2-year-old child in the vehicle were unharmed. The 84-year-old driver of the pickup was also unharmed, but he's now facing charges in connection with the collision.
Despite having a conciliator in the room, the city and the union representing transit workers are no closer to a deal. Talks stalled late this afternoon between the two sides with no new dialogue planned. About 170 members of the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 966 have been without a contract since June 30th, 2012. The president of the ATU says her members are trying to get a fair deal, and that includes a wage hike. She says they are the second lowest paid transit drivers in the province and are at times forced to deal with violence. It's been nearly 30 years since the last transit strike in Thunder Bay. Still, some who rely on the bus are hoping a deal is reached soon.
I think it's going to affect a lot of workers that depend on the public transit. Like myself, I usually use the bus early in the mornings to get to work.
Local 966 President Sheila Cavisto says she doesn't know where things will go from here. The conciliator was only in the city for one day. Despite members voting 99% in favor of taking job action, no strike is currently planned.
The public, for the time being, at this point in time, there's not going to be any kind of disruption in service. We still have a ways to go before anything like that happens, and we certainly don't want to put the public, disrupt the public in getting to work or school or wherever they need to go.
Cavisto says she's aware Mayor Keith Hobbs placed a bet on the labor negotiations ending peacefully on his Facebook page. Cavisto says she's not a betting person.
There is still no word on when the CLE's Board of Directors will hand down a decision on their controversial bar access policy. Board members met last night to discuss the issue that erupted in controversy last month. That's when member Linda Gamby was dismissed from the board after she expressed concerns over potential liability related to allowing members access to alcohol following their meetings. But despite a lengthy debate last night, no decision was handed down. CLE President Rita Stoger says they have referred the matter to their Policy Review Committee, and there is no word on when that committee will deliver a report.
Local politicians are worried about the closure of a treatment center for youth in Thunder Bay. The Children's Center has now shut down a program that housed 6 high-risk youth due to a shortfall in funding from the province. That has some on council wondering what the government is thinking. Dennis Ward has more.
The loss of a 6-bed youth residential treatment program will have a profound impact on the community, according to Councillor Andrew Folds. He says those in the program have significant issues and some are victims of abuse who need a controlled environment.
It may not seem like a lot, but these 6 individuals will not get the kind of support that they need, and they're going to become more of a burden on our police services. They're going to become more of a burden with EMS, with our shelters.
Council has decided to send a letter of support for the program to the province. The Intergovernmental Affairs Committee will also look deeper into the reasons behind the funding cuts and speak to the minister responsible. Mayor Keith Hobbs wonders what the government is thinking.
We need to ask the government why they just dropped these programs. It seems like they do it. They did it with a neighborhood capacity building program, which is now Bawazwa, and for no reason. And I'd like to ask them what thought process goes into canceling these programs. It's just absolutely ridiculous. It's just a swipe of the pen, and to me, it seems like it's just for saving dollars, yet it's going to cost dollars in the long run.
At this week's meeting, Council also voted to provide a one-time grant to the Thunder Bay Indian Friendship Centre. The IFC are looking to purchase the former Port Arthur Prosvita and convert it into a youth centre. The city are putting up $57,000 to help hold the building until next April while deals are worked out. Nearly $40,000 of that grant will come back to the city upon completion of the sale of the building. Dennis Ward, TBT News.
Lakehead University is lobbying for yet another addition to their Thunder Bay campus. Every year for the past 3 years, Lakehead has held out Lobby Day at Queen's Park, where they exchange information with our provincial legislators. President Brian Stevenson says they highlight Lakehead's achievements over the year and then bring forth one issue to push the government for support on. 2 years ago it was the law school. Last year it was for new Aboriginal programs. Now, this year, they're asking for funding to build a new structure for expanding educational opportunities for Aboriginal students.
This year, it's our #1 capital priority, which is our Gitchikindasawin building, which is an Aboriginal building that we want to build for our student services, faculty, and a meeting place for all students to be able to, and faculty to be able to use.
Now, when asked if he thought they'd be able to go 3 for 3 in recent requests, Stevenson said, "Talk to me in a year and I'll let you know."
It was an opportunity to discuss the obstacles the city of Thunder Bay faces when it comes to fighting hunger and poverty. The executive director of the Ontario Association of Food Banks was in the city to host a roundtable discussion with members of the Regional Food Distribution Association. It was aimed at bringing a better understanding of the problems we're faced with. Courtney Rutherford reports.
We have 420,000 people in Ontario using food banks, 165,000 are children. That's growing.
Bill Laidlaw isn't shy when it comes to talking about the number of people who use food banks each day in Ontario. The executive director of the Ontario Association of Food Banks was in Thunder Bay to view our situation firsthand and to offer some advice.
What can the government do? What can the private sector do? I know what we can do. We can try to provide more food, more nutritious food. But you know, when we're providing food, we're just dealing with the symptom. We're not dealing with the problem. The problem lies with people who are have salaries that aren't enough to make a go of it, or they don't have any salaries. So if we could work with other groups and help them try to find solutions to that, that would be of help.
It's been a rough year as our local food bank has been in crisis a number of times. That's according to Volker Krom, Executive Director of the RFDA. The supply of their food depends on the local community and their donations, and this year has proved to be a challenge. Thanksgiving is typically the time when their food donations tend to see a boost, but right now the shelves are nowhere close to being full.
We don't have the food processors aren't here. We don't have the size of the agriculture community isn't that large, and in terms of all our food generally comes from, down in southern Ontario or the prairies and other areas, or from overseas. So we don't have that food base and that catch base and the supply. So if we don't have one single solitary food processor, and everything has to be brought in.
Layla will be spending the next couple of days working at the RFDA and also talking to people in the community who might be struggling. He says there's only one way to solve the problem, and that's to come together, and not just during the holiday months, but throughout the year. Courtney Rutherford,